Hello everyone, and welcome to my B&B Fan Club channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Electra Forrester was a woman with unwavering ambition, her beauty as sharp as her cunning. Born into the Forrester dynasty, she grew up surrounded by the trappings of success, couture gowns, private jets, and the allure of power. However, beneath her polished exterior lay a desire for something more. A legacy that would elevate her name above all others. Electra had always been the golden child, the one who would inherit the keys to Forrester Creations, the family's fashion empire. But her heart, a labyrinth of desires, had led her to Will Spencer, the heir to the Spencer Publications fortune, a man whose charm was only equaled by his restlessness. Will was a paradox. He wore his privilege like a tailored suit while carrying a restless soul seeking meaning outside the boardroom. His engagement to Luna Nozawa, a talented designer with a quiet strength and a troubled past, had surprised the elite circles in which they moved. Luna was not from their world, but her authenticity and resilience drew Will in like a moth to a flame. Their love was a rare thing, fragile yet fierce, forged by late-night conversations and shared fantasies of a future free of their family's expectations. Luna was expecting their first child, a symbol of their commitment, and a beacon of hope in a world that can be cold and calculating. But Electra saw their love as a threat, a disruption to the meticulously planned empire she envisioned. Will had once been hers, or so she thought. A brief romance years ago that left her heart bruised but her resolve hardened. When Will chose Luna, Electra's pride was wounded, and her desire to reclaim him became a dangerous obsession. She watched Luna's pregnancy with envy and calculation, her mind devising an audacious plan that bordered on madness. If she couldn't have Will's heart, she'd take something far more valuable, something that would bind him to her for eternity. The plan arose in the shadows of Electra's mind, nourished by late nights spent pacing the marble floors of her penthouse. Luna's pregnancy was progressing, her glow undeniable, but her vulnerability was also evident. She was an outsider in this wealthy world, and her reliance on others was a weakness that Electra could exploit. Electra had deep connections, and her influence extended into the underbelly of Los Angeles's medical and legal communities. She began to plan a sinister plot that would destroy the lives of everyone involved. It began with a carefully placed call to a disgraced doctor, whose license had been revoked, but whose services were still available for hire. Dr. Marcus Hale was a medical ghost, thriving in morally ambiguous territory. Electra offered him a sum that would pay off his debts and secure his silence. The task was unthinkable. Steal Luna's unborn child using a coerced procedure disguised as a medical emergency. Electra's plan was precise. Luna would be led to believe she had lost the baby naturally, while the child would be placed in Electra's care, a secret she would keep with her life. The night of betrayal was shrouded in deceptive calm. Luna, 7 months pregnant, had been invited to a charity gala at the Forrester estate, a glittering event attended by the city's elite. Electra, ever the gracious host, made Luna feel welcome, her smile a mask of warmth. However, as the evening progressed, Luna began to feel unwell, with a sudden dizziness that she attributed to the strain of pregnancy. Electra, ever attentive, insisted on having a private doctor examine her. Luna agreed, trusting but unaware of the web that was being spun around her. Dr. Hale arrived as a concerned professional, his demeanor calm but his eyes showing a flicker of unease. He gave Luna a sedative, claiming it was to stabilize her condition, and whisked her away to a private clinic under the pretense of urgent care. Will, who had been detained by Electra's allies for a last-minute business call, was unaware of the horror that was unfolding. Luna was subjected to a procedure in the clinic's sterile environment that she would never fully comprehend. When she awoke, groggy and disoriented, she received devastating news. Her baby had died. The grief that followed was like a tidal wave, consuming Luna in its relentless pull. She withdrew into herself, her vibrant spirit dulled by the weight of loss. Will, devastated by the news, rushed to her side, but the distance between them widened as a result of unspoken guilt and unanswered questions. Luna's pain was raw, her dreams of motherhood shattered, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong, despite the fact that she had no evidence to back up her suspicions. Meanwhile, Electra continued with the next phase of her plan. The child, a healthy girl named Aurora, was placed in the care of a trusted confidant, a nanny who had worked for the Forrester family for decades. Electra presented Aurora as her own, claiming that she had been quietly pursuing adoption to satisfy her desire for a family. The lie was meticulously planned, with forged documents and a carefully constructed narrative. Aurora was Electra's daughter, a miracle child who brought light into her life. With Luna broken and Will adrift, Electra seizes the opportunity to bring him closer. She consoled him, playing the role of a caring friend who understood his anguish. Will, vulnerable and seeking solace, found himself drawn to her, their shared history providing a lifeline in the midst of his grief. Electra's manipulations were subtle but relentless, sowing doubt in Luna's stability and implying that their relationship was doomed from the start. Will's resistance weakened over time, and he began to see Electra as a woman who provided stability and a future, rather than as a schemer. Electra and Will's marriage was a spectacle, with the elite celebrating it as the union of two powerful dynasties. The ceremony was held at the Forrester estate, the same location where Luna's life had been ripped apart. Electra stood radiant in her own gown, triumphantly smiling as she exchanged vows with Will. Aurora, now 6 months old, was presented as their daughter, symbolizing their new beginning. The guests marveled at the fairy tale ending, unaware of the darkness beneath it. But Luna's spirit, while battered, was not broken. In the months after her loss, she began to piece together fragments of the truth. A chance encounter with a nurse who had previously worked at the clinic raised concerns about the night she lost her baby. The nurse, haunted by her own involvement in the procedure, hinted at irregularities, but fear prevented her from saying more. Luna's instincts, honed over years of navigating a world that frequently underestimated her, told her to look deeper. She hired a private investigator, a grizzled veteran named Jack Carver, who was known for uncovering secrets that the powerful wanted to keep hidden. Jack's investigation led him to Dr. Hale, whose history of debts and shady dealings suggested Electra's involvement. The deeper Jack dug, the more he discovered: a bribery network, falsified records, and a nanny who appeared overly protective of a child she claimed to have adopted. Luna's heart raced with a mix of hope and dread as the pieces began to fit together. Could her baby still live? And if so, what kind of monster would plan such a theft? The confrontation occurred on a stormy night, which seemed to reflect the turmoil in Luna's heart. She arrived at the Forrester mansion unexpectedly, her eyes blazing with a fire rekindled by the prospect of truth. Electra, caught off guard, tried to keep her cool, but Luna's accusations sliced through her facade like a knife. Will, who was struggling with his own doubts about Electra's story, overheard the conversation, and his world shifted as Luna revealed the evidence of Electra's betrayal. The truth emerged in a series of revelations. Electra's plan, once solid, crumbled under the weight of Luna's determination and Jack's discoveries. Faced with the threat of exposure, Dr. Hale admitted to his role, implicating Electra. The nanny, torn by guilt, confessed to caring for Aurora under false pretense. Will, horrified by the extent of Electra's deception, felt the foundation of his new life crumble. Aurora, the child he had grown to love as his own, was Luna's daughter, taken from her in an unspeakable act of cruelty. The aftermath was a reckoning. Electra, stripped of her power and reputation, faced legal consequences that would follow her for years. The Forrester empire, already strained by internal rivalries, was on the verge of collapse as the scandal dominated headlines. Will, consumed by guilt for his role in Luna's pain, vowed to make amends, despite knowing their love would never be the same. Luna, now reunited with Aurora, found comfort in her daughter's eyes, but the wounds of her loss would never fully heal. Luna reflected on the cost of ambition and the fragility of trust in quiet moments while holding Aurora close. The world of the elite, with its glittering surfaces and hidden daggers, had stolen so much from her, but not her strength. She would rebuild, for herself and Aurora, a life defined by resilience rather than betrayal. And while the pain of the past would linger, it would not shape her future. The story of Electra, Luna, and Will became a cautionary tale, whispered in the corridors of power and written in the shadows of Los Angeles's elite. It was a reminder that, even in a world of wealth and privilege, The human heart can be both the most powerful weapon and the most devastating wound. The tension in Los Angeles had reached a fever pitch. Luna felt her world slip through her fingers, while Electra felt empowered by a new opportunity. Meanwhile, Will Spencer was caught between love, loyalty, betrayal, and a future he had never imagined. Luna's secret pregnancy had always been a ticking time bomb. Everyone around her had questioned it. Will, would you ever accept the child as yours? Will the paternity tests confirm her plans, or will they reveal hidden truths? Luna's hopes and fears teetered on the brink of deception. Meanwhile, Electra, who had previously been sidelined in this triangle, quietly strengthened her resolve. She watched the drama unfold and plotted, not with malice but with ambition. She would not lose Will silently again. When it was time for Luna to give birth, the hospital corridors became chaotic. Electra, disguised by grief and determination, slipped in undercover, capitalizing on the confusion and vulnerabilities of the situation. Luna, exhausted from labor and emotionally unprepared, never noticed the switch. In a moment of heartbreak and triumph, Electra walked out, cradling Luna's newborn and claiming it as her own. That theft altered everything. Luna's eyes fluttered open, panic rising in her chest as she realized the crib was empty. Nurses rushed in, alarms rang, and Will, torn between disbelief and desperation, dashed through every corridor in pursuit. But by the time he arrived at the maternity ward, the child had already left, and an official adoption or custody document had been filed in Electra's name. Electra did not hesitate. She presented herself to the hospital's legal staff, signed paperwork, and declared that she and Will were married, ushering the stolen infant into a home built on lavish facades and tender lies. To the outside world, the story was straightforward. Electra was the grateful new mother, and Will was the devoted husband. No one anticipated the cruel origins of their union. Luna clawed at the edges of her world for weeks, desperate to reclaim what was rightfully hers. She pleaded with authorities, confronted nurses, and demanded DNA testing. But Electra moved with precision. She intercepted evidence, whispered false narratives to Will, and ensured that Luna's pleas sounded insane to friends and family. Will, torn between love for Electra and guilt for Luna, drifted in confusion, swayed by his own emotions and Electra's expert manipulation. Electra played every card she had. She charmed Will, lavished attention on the baby, spun stories about Luna's instability, and persuaded key allies that Luna was delusional. She held regular co-parenting meetings in public places, where Luna was humiliated, misdirected, and undermined. Luna's allies, Steffi, Ridge, and Katie, expressed reservations, but were systematically smeared by Electra's clever insinuations and silent sabotage. As the months passed, Electra strengthened her grip. She remarried Will in a quiet civil ceremony that many people assumed was simply a formalization of what they already knew. But behind that ring and those vows lay the most profound betrayal of all. The baby, who lived in the Forrester Spencer household as Electra's child, was Luna's by birth but Electra's by law and cunning. Luna, powerless and isolated, fell into despair. She haunted hospital corridors, begged for a glimpse of her child, and confronted Will late at night. Every time she touched his hand, she felt an echo of the child she gave birth to. Every time she saw Electra hold the baby, she saw her own loss etched in the child's eyes. Will, for his part, teetered on the brink of moral crisis. He adored the child, whom he believed to be his, but a part of him recognized Luna's pain. He struggled to reconcile his love for Electra with the nagging guilt of knowing that something was fundamentally wrong. Electra, in response, remained vigilant. She tracked Luna's movements, manipulated house staff, and recorded every phone call, confession, and tear. She avoided interference, put Will in difficult situations, and charmed or threatened anyone who might support Luna. She threatened legal action, raised concerns about Luna's sanity, discussed mental evaluations, and expressed doubts about Luna's motherhood. In private, she cradled the baby and planned ahead how to silence suspicion, marginalize Luna, and permanently shift the narrative in her favor. Then, as is customary in soap operas, the tipping point approached. Luna was able to obtain a fragment of evidence, a tape, a witness, and an error in Electra's otherwise flawless paperwork. She presented it to Will in a trembling confrontation. "You know this is my child. You know how it was taken. Will recoiled, perplexed, but Electra acted quickly. She dismissed the evidence as forged. She threatened the courts, lawyers, and the media. She even gave Will an ultimatum. Stay married to me and keep this life, or go with Luna and lose everything. Friends and family started picking sides. Rich and Steffi cautioned Will quietly. Katie and Brooke encouraged him to seek the truth. Lawyers weighed in secretly. Luna gained one ally, a hospital chef, janitor, and nurse, who noticed Electra's intrusion. That person came forward late one night with footage of Electra entering the maternity suite after shift hours. The tape captured her face, her badge, and her approach to the hospital, placing her in that forbidden hallway. It could not be ignored. Luna used that evidence to file her petition to reclaim her child. The courtroom drama became the year's centerpiece. Will, swayed by guilt and the weight of evidence, broke down under oath. I thought the child was my own. If I was duped, I demand justice. Electra stood firm, claiming maternal rights and accusing Luna of instability, obsession, and delusion. She referred to the months she had spent raising the baby, the household, and the love she had shown. The judge's decision at the end of the trial surprised many. Luna was granted supervised visitation immediately, and custody would be re-evaluated after a full forensic DNA test was completed. During the legal battle, the child was temporarily placed in the custody of a neutral caretaker. Electra, furious but undeterred, planned her next moves. She whispered to Will that Luna's presence threatened their home, that she was concerned for the baby's safety, and that she might seek overall custody to protect the child. She used legal wards, threats, and even anonymous rumors about Luna's background. For the first time, Luna had awakened allies in the Forrester and Spencer camps. Will felt torn to his core. He loved the baby, as he had loved Electra. But the truth was now unmistakable, and the deception was too raw to ignore. His marriage to Electra, once a safe haven, now felt tarnished. Each tender moment with the child made him sad for Luna. Every glance at Electra evoked guilt and suspicion. Luna, bolstered by her legal position and new support, refused to back down. She watched the child from a distance, took photos, listened to stories, and whispered lullabies through the glass windows. She pushed for more rights, including full custody, DNA confirmation, and recognition. Throughout it all, Electra fought back, refusing to leave, relinquish power, and admit defeat. Private investigators, clandestine DNA retesting, witness tampering, bribed testimony, tricked scripts, emotional blackmail, and shifting family alliances all played a role. Every episode featured a new twist. A misplaced file, a swapped doctor, a covert meeting, and a coerced nurse. The baby, at the center of it all, slept soundly, the focal point of so many people's downfall and redemption. In the end, as the final court decision approached, Will had to choose between remaining loyal to Electra, his wife and partner in raising the child he thought was his, and returning the child to Luna, the mother, wronged, wounded, and unbowed. If the truths were openly acknowledged, the decision would fracture relationships, destroy reputations, and possibly heal wounds. Electra's mask cracked in that climactic courtroom as the judge pronounced Luna would regain full custody. Will, standing beside Luna, held their child in his arms, tears streaming, for the first time not as a husband fulfilling an arranged narrative, but as a father correcting a mistake. Electra, defeated but defiant, backed out of the courthouse, her dreams shattered and her ambition tarnished. Even in that moment of victory, Luna's wounds were deep and irreversible. Bonds broken, trust shattered, love betrayed. These could not be repaired by any ruling. The baby, once stolen, had become a battleground for hearts and minds. Luna would now work to heal the child with her own love, to rebuild the life she had lost, and to move forward knowing that, while deception had once stolen her baby, truth had finally reclaimed her power. And Will, captivated by both women's darkness and light, would face the consequences of his decisions, forever altered by the child born in deception.